YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here. Gonna throw out the old intro for those who missed it. Appreciate you joining me tonight. I wanted to test out Slayers a little bit. And just talk about whether or not they have become a little more worth it in this patch. So let's give them a try. I'm gonna throw in a couple of Slayers here. And we'll throw in a Dwarf Lord too. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut the abilities on all heroes that are coming in. Got our Slayers. Let's get an Empire Captain. Again, no abilities. No items, and let's bring in a couple of Empire Knights. In fact, let's make it interesting. Let's bring in a couple of Reiksguard. So, if we take a look at the spin here, oh, this is a, I have it set to a siege battle. Let's go to a land battle. Why did it switch me over? I hate how it does that. Don't switch my army, don't switch my faction. Whenever I switch the battle type, it's absolutely ridiculous. Alright. By the way, while I'm getting this set up, if you all like the videos that you see, there is a logo of mine down in the bottom right-hand corner. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more. Hope you enjoy it, and I want you all to know, all that view, how much it helps me, how much I appreciate your viewership, and how much fun it is for me to continually make videos for you. Look at that. Rex, my army pick again. So yeah, it really is a joy for me to do this for you. And the reason why I've had a few people, like, because I've never said much about it in the past, I've had people like, why are you asking for subs? And like people get so mad, like, is it wrong for me to, you know, want to be successful? Or, I mean, you don't have to subscribe, I'm not making you. So when I ask for it, I mean, it's if you genuinely are interested in it and you want to do it, I mean, like I said, it helps me out a great deal, and it is always appreciated. But at the same time, don't feel like you have to, just me asking. So let's see here, because if I'm successful, I get to keep bringing you content, and I like doing that. I don't want that to end, and if you're not growing, then you're dying. So that's why I ask those of you who enjoy it to help me grow if you enjoy it. So here we go. Let's get these Slayers into combat. And as always too, I need to mention MSI, who helped sponsor the build that I'm recording this on. I'll be mentioning them in every video because I feel like they didn't ask me to or make me. I want to do that because I feel like it was extremely generous of them to do what they did for me. So that is my way of saying thanks. Let's take a look at the test here. I want to just take a charge from the Reiksguard. Ideally, I'll try and tie down the Empire Captain with my own Lord. This may skew the battle just a little bit, but one thing I would really love to see, yes, I can ask a friend to help me with this, but it takes time to get a friend online, make sure they can match your schedule. Then I have to be on speak with them to coordinate this, and I can't record at the same time, so there are some downsides to testing this with another person. There's definitely some upsides. Over here, the Empire Knights are going to charge in the forest, which should moderate the Reiksguard. Reiksguard gets a nasty charge on me. And their Lord is just going straight for my Slayers over here, so it's going to skew this fight a little bit. But this ought to be a pretty good demonstration. The Slayers get absolutely slaughtered by the Reiksguard here on the charge. The Slayers are causing some pretty significant damage post-charge, and they are unbreakable, so it is possible that they'll turn this around. If they can defeat this Reiksguard head-on and charge, they've paid for themselves. The problem with Slayers is that they are also quite vulnerable to missiles. And it looks like the Reiksguard is going to handily defeat them, to be honest. There's only 15 of them left, but the Reiksguard's down to 21 and dropping. And with the charge bonus long past, we'll see what happens. I've got the Empire Captain tied down, and we'll see what happens over here, too. Honestly, even if the Reiksguard win, if the Slayers make it close enough, it could still be a cost-worthy trade. Slayers are fighting to the last Dwarf, as what would be expected from a Slayer. They are the only Dwarf unit with a bonus versus large. But they also lack armor almost entirely, and that one now lacks a head because he got decapitated. With the beautiful red lance of the Reiksguard. Reiksguard are some of the coolest looking units in Total War ever, in my opinion. It really makes me want to see a Medieval 3 at some point, with how nice those guys are looking. So the Slayers will not defeat the Reiksguard head-on, but they fought it down to 12 units, which I believe justifies on the cost. So the Slayers, are they a potential anti-cavalry unit? I think so. I mean, like I said, they fought these guys down to be very low in numbers. I mean, they could still be an effective charge unit, but I mean, the Reiksguard costs more by 200. So do you get a little bit of a bargain out of that for the Slayers? I think so. And if the Reiksguard didn't get a great open ground charge like that, they're not going to win that fight. So I do believe there are potential case to justify Slayers as an anti-cavalry unit there. There are definitely going to be cavalry units out there who can beat them, especially if they get, like I said, an open charge like that. But I've noticed that in a lot of battles, you know, the charges don't always go as clean or as smooth as you think they will. And if there was a Runesmith supporting the Slayers, or a Thane, or something else, it may be an entirely different story. Let's test one other thing. So we got the Slayers here. This is another curiosity test. I don't think they're ever intended to go up against a unit like Greatswords. I just want to see how they do. So in a worst case scenario, Slayers have a bonus versus large. How do they stack up in a fight against a unit that is made to fight against infantry? Now, Greatswords are made to fight against armored infantry, which the Slayers are not. But let's just see how this goes. Greatswords tend to do well against just about any infantry. And we're going to just try them out in a number of scenarios against Empire infantry. Why Empire? Just the Empire has a pretty nice variety for us to try. But I mean, I might throw a greenskin unit or two in here too, since they're a nice grudge match for the Dwarves. Let's just pull this up. So unfortunately, it looks like the AI is not going to cooperate with me. They're blobbing. Let's split up and see if we can lure them into two separate engagements. You kind of have to try and game the AI a little bit sometime. Let's see if we can charge this greatsword and get its attention. And then no. Gosh dang it. Play right, stupids. I don't know, whatever. Let's just see. It's going to be the most tainted test ever because the AI wouldn't cooperate. Let's just see what happens. Greatswords are decimating the Slayers on the charge. Over here, the Slayers get the charge. Greatswords outnumber the Slayers by 30 men. Yeah, I mean, the Greatswords just absolutely wrecking the Slayers. Like, this is as I expected. The Slayers are not meant for this type of anti-infantry fight. So I just want to demonstrate this so that if anybody sees me talking about, oh yeah, Slayers are a little better in this patch, this is not what they're intended for. This is a great way to get a bunch of very brave dwarves slaughtered for absolutely zero purpose. So yeah, just be aware of it. So fight to the death or not, the Slayers are going to get absolutely owned in this fight by the Greatswords, and that is quite clear. And that was with Greatswords really not even getting a proper charge. So yeah, no need to even finish that one. Slayers going nowhere, Greatswords owning. So what else could we test the Slayers against? I just got all kinds of curiosity here. So they're anti-large. Here's a good test. What about Demigryph Knights? How do they do versus Demigryph Knights? Let's go with the ones with lances, because they should be more well-suited to killing infantry. They couldn't defeat Reiksguard head-on. Now, the cost here, though, actually allows me to afford a third Slayer, because if we're just going by sheer cost, I can afford 3 Slayers for the cost of 2 Demigryph Knights. So let's see how this works out. And apparently, if you want to know that Marauder Horsemen have Vanguard deployment, you can find that out from the helpful tooltip there. Thank you, helpful tooltip. Okay. Yeah, none of these tests are like perfectly conclusive. Keep that in mind, folks, because the AI does not cooperate. Their lord engages me. They do all kinds of weird stuff. This is just meant to give us a mark on the gauge, basically, to determine whether or not we're anywhere close to the level of usefulness that we would like to be. There is no charge defense, so it benefits me to charge. So I'm going to charge straight into the Demigryphs. I'm going to pull my lord. My lord got chucked by a bunch of Demigryphs. Now let's see. I have an anti-large. There are fewer Demigryph models, but if we look at the health on them, should be similar. I don't know where the Demigryphs may be trying to engage my lord. Over here you can see that the Slayers trading some damage with the Demigryphs, but for the most part when it's just a one-on-one charge there, the Slayer's going to get absolutely wrecked. But if they pull the Demigryph down to half, what was it, about half health? Actually, if they could pull it down to like 1/3 health, it would be a cost-effective trade. Right here the AI tried to disengage me, so I'm going to keep chasing. So this fight will go a little bit better from me because the AI attempted to disengage, and you can see that there really is a value in the Slayers as an anti-cavalry unit. They're doing substantial damage. This represents a case where maybe your opponent makes a mistake in pulling away from with the Demigryph Knights, and your Slayers are able to chase because they're fairly fast for a Dwarf unit. And then over here, they are definitely making a cost-effective trade in a head-on charge with Demigryph Knights. In fact, they may defeat the Demigryph Knights. They didn't do it with the Reiksguard, but they may very well defeat this Demigryph Knight. Just because there's fewer models, I think the Slayers stood a better chance there. Yeah, I mean, they appear to be a very functional unit to take out Demigryph Knights from what I've seen right here. I think that's a great trade if I'm the Dwarf player, trading 1,000 to basically ruin a 1,500 unit. So I would be very happy with that trade when it came cost to cost there. These Slayers got completely distracted, but I think that proves a point there too. So again, in that anti-large role, and when I say anti-large, I want to say probably cavalry, probably trolls, chariots, that kind of stuff. I think your Slayers are going to be handy. Where they're going to fail is, like, I don't think that these guys have any real chance against, let's say like the Greenskins, for instance. And if I just take this war boss, don't mat him, no abilities, no potions, let's give him a spider. And heck, I'll even give my guy three Slayers to go after the spider. I'll bet the spider still might win. Unless something, like I said, massively has changed in this patch, because the spider absolutely crapped on Slayers in the previous patch. So let's see if their anti-gigantic monster qualities have been made any better. Clearly they are going to be better versus cavalry, and I would assume, based on these results, that you would probably see them be pretty useful units against boar boys, and at roughly the same cost to do. Let's go check this out. So, alright, here comes the Greenskins. I'm going to sling everything at the spider. I don't know if that's really the best strategy, because the spider has splash damage. It may be better to take him one-on-one, one unit of Slayers at a time, but let's try and swamp him and let's see what happens. Anti-large damage from the Slayers. They will not rout. They will fight to the death. I do have 3 Slayers to the spider, which is a cost imbalance. And the Greenskin war boss is getting absolutely trashed. The spider is still causing significant damage to my Slayers. They were able to rout it, but he killed over half the health of 3 Slayer units. So, I mean, that's not a bad result, because this was a worst-case scenario for the spider. I killed its lord, and I was able to blob 3 Slayers into the spider. So, again, could Slayers help you versus a spider? Yes, but I think you have a much better bet, which is the Thunderers. So, you know, again, not completely conclusive. Let's try them out, though, just out of a curiosity. What if they end up in an infantry fight? So, what if the Slayers end up in an infantry fight versus Biggins? So, let's try an infantry fight versus Biggins. Can they trade against a significantly cheaper infantry, or do you just avoid infantry engagements with the Slayers at all cost? So, let's test that. Okay. Start the battle. I'm going to move up. Let's fast forward. Get this test out there. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start charging the Biggins. It may not be the world's cleanest charge, because, like I said, the AI doesn't always cooperate, but this is actually going to end up pretty decent here. Pretty decent. So, clean charge from the Slayers into the Biggins. Remember, the Slayers cost significantly more. So if they were going to trade well here, they would need to defeat the Biggins fairly decisively. There is a war boss involved in that fight, so it's not going to happen. Over here, the Slayers got a little bit better charge without the disruption of a boss, and they will trade with the Biggins, it looks like, or at least fairly close to trade. The Biggins may rout because the Dwarfs don't break. Yeah, they're going to end up routing them because the Dwarfs don't break. Well, maybe. It's down to so close there. So, I mean, yeah, they won, but I mean, clearly that's an awful trade, and it may not work every single time. So, definitely not a trade that you want to take with the Slayers. So, basically, it looks like that the lesson here is to keep them out of infantry engagements, probably unless it's against something crappy like Spearmen. So, yeah. The other thing that people ask me about a lot is Ironbreakers. And how good are Ironbreakers? I don't have time to probably go out and do like a whole bunch of testing, but let's run a quick scenario. Let's pit Ironbreakers against. Let's pit some Ironbreakers against. Let's just throw the war boss in here to start with. Take all his abilities, and then let's throw 2 black orcs in here. And the Ironbreakers do cost more. Previously, though, black orcs were they were cheaper. But I just want to throw this in here to prove a point. And like, how much difference does it make if you have a runesmith out there? So I understand that this test is going to be skewed cost-wise heavily in favor of the dwarves, but I'm going to keep my lord back, and I'm going to allow the greenskin lord to enter the fight. And I'm just going to use my runesmith to buff the Ironbreakers. How powerful does it make the Ironbreakers if you have a full-on runesmith here? Because some people have recommended that a runesmith with the Ironbreakers can get pretty insane, and there are some significant buffs. And you could even have, if you really wanted to spend a lot of money, you could have Thorgrim out here and put even further buffs on the Ironbreakers. But I'm gonna assume for now that it's just the runesmith. So keep our guy back. Let's come up against the Greeny McGreenskins here. The AI should blob straight into my Ironbreakers. And let's get our runes ready. We have the Rune of Negation. Still needs 42 seconds, so I actually should have waited because I could have gotten her some of the charge. We might as well throw our direct damage spell out here. Here comes the blasting charges, cause significant damage, and the rune Rune of Wrath and Ruin is causing a lot of damage. Ironbreakers are getting all their throws out, causing significant damage. The runesmith is going to be buffing the stats of the Ironbreakers consistently. I can boost their armor at the moment. I'm not going to bring my runesmith into combat. I'm going to let my Ironbreakers fight this one. You can see that they keep throwing their blasting charges sometimes, even while engaged, so the amount of damage done to the Black Orcs is pretty significant. I can throw a Rune of Negation, and I'm going to be negating about 40% of the damage. You can see the Ironbreakers are near untouchable here at 120 armor, and then the Rune of Negation. And then I've got the other buffs going on here, which is going to be extra armor piercing, extra missile resistance, leadership, and melee attack. So, and they're getting a pretty big boost to melee attack at +8. So you can see the Ironbreakers are going to hold out like absolute beast, and it does take a while to cycle the Rune of Negation, but I also get access to this direct damage spell, and I can keep throwing it to damage the Black Orcs. It's not going to be tons of damage, but it pulls hit points. So again, just with the support of this runesmith, you can see the level of defense that these Ironbreakers are capable of. They are very expensive, and it's going to leave your flanks open to being hit. But the Ironbreakers themselves become basically the rock when it comes to a rock and hard place. If you can figure out the other hard place. And I do think that Thunderers can sometimes come into this plan because of the size of Black Orcs, and you could actually use your Ironbreakers to allow an enemy force to maybe get some of their guys around your flank a little. And I'm going to boost the armor of my guys again. Look at how strong they're holding up against the Black Orcs. They're not getting a ton of kills, only 15 kills. 0 here because they're just fighting a lord. But I mean, they are holding out quite nicely. And again, the runesmith can consistently bring these runes out here. So another Wrath and Ruin. And this one Black Orc is now going to be on the ropes. I can negate again, so I'm going to get 40% damage resistance. And again, you can just see how much damage the Ironbreakers are capable of taking out. Now, if you use that Rune of Negation on the charge, you can negate a significant amount of what the dwarfs or what the orcs would need to do. And, it's a great way to help counter the orcs because the orcs rely on causing massive damage and causing it fast, whereas the dwarfs are going to excel in that late game engagement where their high leadership, armor, and defensive stats start to come into play. You can see that this one Ironbreaker has held its own with the support of the runesmith versus 2 Black Orcs. And so, again, the defensive capability here is significant. 135 armor with this ruin on. You can see their melee defense is 70, melee attack at 39. We can go in and drop the direct damage ruin again, and we're 50 seconds away from another ruin of negation. You can imagine with 2 Runesmiths, which would be very expensive, just how much you might be able to buff certain units. And remember that the Black Orcs are made for this kind of combat. They're made for combat against high armor units, like an Ironbreaker. And they are struggling. In fact, they cannot get the job done. The Ironbreaker is holding. Only about 15 seconds for more help as well for the Ironbreakers. This is an impressive performance here. It's a very impressive performance because this unit here did take a charge from 2 Black Orcs. So I'm not sitting here saying that Ironbreakers are definitely going to be like a feasible solution in multiplayer for the Dwarfs, but with the support of units like a Runesmith, you can see how powerful they become. So previously, whereas I would have said these units are pretty much entirely worthless, I would not think that that's the case anymore. I think there is going to be a case for Ironbreakers to be on the battlefield, especially in campaign, where cost effectiveness in an army is pointless. But in multiplayer, I think you could justify the use of a couple of Ironbreakers to hold a line that maybe previously many units held. So what I would be careful of with them is artillery. Like a Doom Diver catapult or something is going to be a nightmare for these guys because they're so expensive. Those units will pay themselves off in no time attacking this. Give me your thoughts on the Dwarfs. What other stuff have you noticed in patch 2 that you don't think I've covered very well yet? There are a couple of things to consider. This Dwarf Lord here has this Fire Ring of Thori, which is basically a breath spell. It can be used to some pretty devastating effect if you can get him in the right position. I haven't messed with the Master Engineer much. I'm going to have to take a look at that. Have you all found him to be useful in this patch? Thanes are pretty clear. They're going to be useful because of the healing potions. But yeah, just kind of curious. I find Longbeards to be much more useful now too when they're combined with the Runesmiths, similar to like the Ironbreakers were. But like I said, love to hear your thoughts. Tell me what you think about the Dwarfs right now in patch 2. HeirofCarthage signing out. Hopefully I'll see you next time.